As I mentioned in yesterday's video, David Moyes is a far from perfect manager. I think a lot is wrong, and I think because of the way he's hemorrhaging his coaching staff, I think now is probably the right time to move him on. However, I also think there's something a little bit sinister going on with David Moyes here. I think David Moyes has got enough bad points to warrant him leaving, but I'm a little bit worried that a load of stories are being made up to try and just give him that final push. In fact, to go a little bit further than that, I think there's a lot of stories being made up that are being leaked to make David Moyes sound worse than he is, and some of them are just outright lies. You don't need to make stuff up, by the way. You know, Mark Warburton, his friend, saying he couldn't work with him is sort of bad enough. Losing Paul Nevin again is sort of bad enough. There's a lot of stuff which ain't great. We'll go through it in a minute. So I'm not defending everything David Moyes does. Far from it. But I would like to, in all honesty, sit on these videos and be honest with you. And I'm not overly conspiratorial in life. I don't think, I don't think the Earth's flat. I do think we went to the moon. I think Princess Diana died in a car crash. I'm not overly that way inclined. I don't look for ulterior motives and sneaky stuff and smoke and mirrors. I really don't. But obviously doing what we do here, I'm running YouTube and social media accounts and stuff like that, you do get past information. You absolutely do. And one of the benefits of doing it is that we do have a little record of it. Now, I do appreciate yesterday all the shit hit the fan with the Alex Scott story. I don't know why that exploded up on a Friday morning, because if you watch this channel regularly, when I uploaded the Harvey Barnes video on Tuesday night, I covered it. I actually said in the video that I didn't find this rumour believable. I said, I'm just telling you this, I've been told this, but I don't believe it. And I actually said in the video, I'm reluctant to run with this headline, which is why I've buried it in this video. It's about 6 minutes into the Harvey Barnes video, if you want to go and have a look. Tuesday night, I uploaded that, because I didn't like it. Also, the day after, I produced the poppycockometer, which was I was going to assess each story for reasons of truth. And the reason I introduced that is the reason I've been doing YouTube for 7 years, never introduced one. I decided to introduce it a couple of days ago because I wasn't very trusting on a lot of the information, a lot of the stories that are coming out, and a lot of them pertain to David Moyes. And just before anyone thinks I'm overly defending David Moyes, you don't need to make stuff up about David Moyes. I think there's reason enough. I'm going to go through a few now. I'm only doing this not to dig David Moyes out, but just so as you know, when I tell you the stuff that I think's made up, you just don't need to do it. Julian Alvarez. There you go. Julian Alvarez. Saying he didn't need him, he had Mikel Antonio instead. Signing Alex Crow on loan rather than Casiado. Not knowing where to play Paqueta, even though they spent 50 million on him. Admitting that he needed, so I'm reading, I've made notes. Trying to be a bit organised. Admitting that he didn't know where to play Danny Ings. He had to find out a little bit about Danny Ings. Weird, right? His inability to incorporate new signings quickly. Failure to build relationships with fans. All the little jibes, calling fans so-called experts, squaring up to them against Brighton, that sort of thing. His refusal to change. The money wasted on people like Vlasic. And the inability to try and work through and find a solution with a player as good as Sebastian Haller, for example. Not giving players a fair chance, putting two goalkeepers on the bench rather than giving a youngster a chance, even when we've clearly got some talented youngsters in the academy. The way he rewards poor performances. Thomas Souček, for example, could game after game after game produce next to nothing. In one game make 8 passes, then the next game make 9 passes, next game 11 passes. And he still gets in the team. I think that's pretty bad. The way he's petrified whenever he sets up against a team he perceives to be better. Not all the time, but 9 times out of 10, he's absolutely petrified. He doesn't go for it. The pursuit of Jesse Lingard, which I think was a real big hindrance to us. The way he didn't strengthen when we were at our very peak. Players like Paqueta, Bowen and Soufal admitting that they like it when we go behind in games because it makes the coach more adventurous. Their words, not mine. There's a lot of the way he treats his favourites in the team. There's a lot of stuff there, right? I've actually got 18 things on that list. I think I might have read you about 13, 14 there, all right? There are a lot of reasons for people to be annoyed with David Moyes. And I will cast your mind back, if I may, to yesterday's video where I feel that now is the right time for him to go. Now is the right time for him to go. I'm only saying all this stuff because I'm going to get to the conspiracy bit at the end and the absolute crap stories, right? I think what's happened with Mark Warburton, what's happened with Paul Nevin, I think the constant hemorrhaging of staff. I think, bearing in mind, we've got a new director of football. He's got 1 year left. Now makes sense for him to go. Let Tim Steiten build the managerial team. I think it sort of makes sense. So with all that being said, I'm going to go on to the other bit now, because despite all of that and despite him having many flaws, many flaws, he doesn't deserve to be lied about. Nobody deserves to be lied about, and that's what it feels like is happening at the moment. This Alex Scott thing is bordering on the ridiculous, actually, and that's why I mentioned it in the Harvey Barnes video and sort of buried it in there. It's just a rumour, and I don't want anyone to get their knickers in a twist. Right, when I say these words, just think, you know what, it just might not be true. But I'm a little bit reluctant to go full steam on this one. I don't want to go with a big clickbait headline. Moyes ruins another West Ham transfer. I'm not doing that, as you'll know, because you'll have clicked on the video for other reasons. I think it can be a little bit sensationalistic, and I think it's an easy stick to beat David Moyes with. It's also rumours that he's sort of scuppered the Harvey Barnes deal. Now, if we don't sign Alex Scott or Harvey Barnes, then there's always going to be the suspicion that he did scupper them. I'll tell you what, if we sign one or both of those players, you'll know it was all a load of nonsense, though. It actually, in reverse, it probably works a little bit better. And I hope we do sign them for footballing reasons, I really do. And I just feel a little bit uncomfortable with all of this. And I feel... Well, I feel for myself, I'm second guessing everything. I'm just trying to keep an open mind, because what I don't want to be doing is peddling someone else's narrative and trying to force David Moyes out of the club. David Moyes leaves the club, it'll be, I would hope, because of what he has or hasn't done, or because he's had enough, or because we feel it's time to change. I don't want to feel that he has been kicked out of the club because people are peddling false narratives about him, and the media and social media and you know, people like us have got on his back. And I've done more than my fair share of anti-Moyes stuff, don't get me wrong, but I would hope I've played the man and played the ball and not the man. That's the that's the phrase, isn't it? Actually, there's another phrase. What is it? Believe half of what you see and none of what you're told, or none of what you read. Something like that. I've probably got that saying. I know there's a lot of smart people read these, write in the comments. You'll put me right on that. And I'm sort of taking that mindset, really, which is why I've got the poppycockometer. Let me tell you, and the reason that's really prompting me doing this video, because I've heard a lot of rumours about David Moyes in the past day or two. So here's the most recent one, and I just thought, I've got to cut this off at the pass, because this morning, when I uploaded, this one, so Friday morning, when I got up, I had a load of messages saying, Gonzo, what's your take on the Alex Scott story? And I thought, I've dealt with it, haven't I? I spoke about that. Now, obviously, that is my fault. That's an assumption that everybody watches every minute of every video. Of course you don't. You've got better things to do with your life. But I'd already covered it, and I didn't know why it had blown up. But it definitely felt when I was given the information, oh, wow, okay, that was Tuesday. I was given the information on Monday, really, and I didn't put it up there till Tuesday. I thought, someone spent the best part of a week trying to force this through. I mean, it's weird. Anyway, forget about the Alex Scott things. I don't think they met. And let's be honest with you, even if they had met, which they haven't, you still got to assume that within the confines of that conversation, they've leaked the news. David Moyes doesn't leak anything. I don't know anything about Scott. Couldn't tell you anything about him at all. Not entirely sure he's leaked anything. But I tell you what, even if they had met, this kid is 19. 19. We are looking for a Declan Rice replacement in midfield. I'm not sure David Moyes should be telling him he starts every game. Even if that was true, so I don't particularly blame David Moyes for that anyway. But what I don't think is the other thing about David Moyes, that he can't say anything nice to anyone. Come on, you know, that's not it at all. I would imagine if he had, and I don't think he's had the conversation probably would have gone along the lines of something like this. Look, I can't guarantee you a first team place, mate, but what I'm going to do is I'll start introducing you as a substitute. I'll play you in the European games, and your chance is there to grab if you want it. If you get on, you do the business, then I'll let you play, just like I did with Jared Bowen. It's not like every example is Flynn Downs, all right? There are other examples as well. Sai Ben Rama took him longer to get into the team, didn't it? But I don't think that David Moyes said, no, you're not playing. I don't think that at all. I'm far from convinced we've even approached the kid. Okay, I'm far from convinced. The other thing, and here's the thing that has really got me worried, because this is what smacks of agenda more than anything. So I'm going to tell you the story, but in the same way that I said in the Harvey Barnes thing, I don't particularly want you to believe it, because I do not believe this, but I'm going to tell you it now because I think it shows it for what it is, and I've heard it from a number of places now. And when I say a number of places, all I'm saying is people have been saying this thing, and it's Chinese whispers. That's basically what happens. That's what happened with the training ground thing. Because the first source side from that training ground thing was really, really, really good. I mean, someone from the bloody training ground. So, not he said through him, right? So let's get that absolutely straight. My latest rumour is that Moyes wants Zakaria. Tim Steidten doesn't want Zakaria, and they've had a row about it. And that Moyes, Mark Noble, and Steidten had a meeting where it was discussed, and they had a row and they had a falling out, and there's a disagreement, and details of that meeting have come out. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'll tell you now, right? Tim Steidten kept stum. He said nothing from the moment he was, whatever it was, put on gardening leave by Leverkusen. He says nothing. He's told nobody any details at all. He has declined so many interviews. He's declined so much stuff, so much opportunity to leak stuff. He hasn't done it. David Moyes doesn't leak anything. He doesn't leak anything. David Moyes doesn't, and Mark Noble doesn't even like all this stuff. Mark Noble's been asked about social media before and about YouTube and things like that, and speaking to the press. I think his answer was, I'd rather shag my granny, right? So we are supposed to believe that a conversation through a private conversation with three people who don't say shit to anyone is meant to have got out there and been all the details of it. Nonsense. I mean, that is poppycock. It really is. It's utter nonsense. Now, I'm not saying that they're in total agreement of it. I'm just saying we don't know. That it is pure fabrication and pure supposition. And what I said the other day when I was speaking about Alex Scott, and I said the reason I don't want to talk about this is, I'm going to tell you this. I said, please don't get your knickers in a twist. And I know the majority of you didn't. Please don't get your knickers in a twist, because I don't believe it. And I say this now, and I don't get your knickers in a twist. There's enough. Because I think all of this is really, really negative towards West Ham. And I understand my own place in it. And I'm believe you me, I'm going to check myself, and I'm going to double check everything before I say anything that I'm not certain about. But you can talk about the Warburton stuff because we're certain, aren't we? I mean, we're even lucky enough that he came onto Hammer's chat. We know that there's no supposition, there's no guessing that Levin left. He left. That's not that, all right? However, I did a little bit of supposition the other day. I did a little bit of guesswork about Steve Round. Now, when I did the video about Steve Round, I didn't know Steve Round was coming back. I still don't know Steve Round's coming back. I should probably say that. But let's put it this way. I didn't know he'd left Arsenal. Let's say that, shall we? I didn't know he'd left Arsenal at that point. But I thought it was another reason to be concerned about Moyes that he couldn't keep his backroom staff. Actually, but if you say one thing, you've got to be prepared to say the opposite, right? So if I was prepared to say because Steve Round didn't want to work for him, that suggests people don't want to work with Moyes. Actually, if within 24 hours I find out actually Steve Round does want to work with Moyes, and he's coming to work with Moyes, I've got to change my opinion on it, haven't I? That's only right. And actually, it would probably stand to reason, because I believe this, that actually if we hired Steve Round, I think we make an improvement on our coaching team. I think Steve Round is a better coach than Mark Warburton, and he's certainly better suited to David Moyes. Mark Warburton's more of a manager. If he first team coach, Steve Round all day long. England, Arsenal, Everton, Manchester United. Come on, this is what it's all about. And I think if David Moyes fails, he fails because of his own inadequacies. But I'm definitely not comfortable in peddling a load of stuff which ain't true. And then being absolutely outraged about it. And then using it as a reason to force David Moyes out. So if we say we want David Moyes to leave because no coaches want to work with him, I think that's fine. I really do. If you think that you want David Moyes to leave because he didn't know he bought Gianluca Scamacca, and he doesn't know how to best get out of Scamacca and Haller and strikers like that, so he's not the man to take us forward, I think it's a reasonable argument. I think there are a number of reasonable arguments, because he didn't know, he couldn't see the talent of Caicedo or Julian Alvarez. Good reasons. But if he's going to go, surely that's the reason he's going to go. Not because someone's invented a conversation that never bloody happened, and then they've attributed it. And that, because that's what's happened. They're attributing these conversations to David Moyes. It's a lie. Otherwise it's a Wild West, right? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do that. I can say that you've said something, even though it doesn't matter. You haven't said it. It doesn't matter. You're innocent. Hey, someone said it. That's it. And it goes the same way. So I really hope that this thing calms down a little bit, because I think it's really unhealthy at the start of the season. Really, really unhealthy. We should be looking forward to it, and I am looking forward to it. And the irony is, it's not the lack of signings that's actually... I was excited. I'm excited by Tim Steidten coming in. I am. I'm really excited. I would actually, believe it or not, even if I think David Moyes isn't going to go, I'd be excited by Steve Round coming in. I'd feel more promise towards these. I think we'd do all right. I do. And we'll get some signings over the line. We've got Steve Round in. I think we'll have a decent season. It's not that. But I don't know why someone is peddling this stuff, but I tell you now, it is unhealthy. And I think if you were looking from the outside, and I would only pray that anybody that is looking to come into West Ham possibly doesn't look at social media and that sort of stuff and all the rest of it, because you get a bad reputation for it. You know, it looks like the club's toxic, and I think the club's is in repair. That's how it looks like to me. Mark Noble's getting a bigger role and more authority. Looks like we might be bringing in some new, better coaches. We've got a new director of football. I think we're moving forward. But it just seems to me, at the very point we should be moving forward, and we're trying to move forward, there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm getting all Roswell on you now. I think there's something dragging us back.